Sheila, you said from the onstart, all we want to do is ranch in peace and harmony among our neighbors.
This is exactly how we are living. If you really want to know how we are living, what Rajneeshpuram is all about it, here we are. Yes, Baba,
yes. Town Hall, this week on location in Oregon's newest city for a look inside Rajneeshpuram.
Something's happening here that isn't just something you can say is logical or something that happens because somebody goes and they try. It's something magical that's happening here too. I think it's difficult for people to accept the new. I think it's difficult for people to accept that we can move as fast as we can move and that somehow they can't move that fast for whatever reasons. It's like every day is a new surprise. If I look at it in the sense that here we are after being on this ranch and seeing what we've done in this short year, then I would say incredible. No one ever would have imagined. We never imagined these kind of things happening.
And now your moderator, Jack Faust.
Hi, we're on location in the ranch at Rajneeshpuram in Oregon, in the heart of Central Oregon, in the heart of 100 square miles of Oregon, which is owned by the followers of an East Indian guru, Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh. His followers are here with us tonight, and some people have some questions to ask. This is the third of a planned trilogy on the Rajneesh in Oregon. Our first show mostly dealt with the Rajneesh people as a religion. Our second show kind of centered on the controversy between the Rajneesh and Antelope. Tonight, as I said, we are on the ranch in Rajneeshpuram, and that's what we're going to talk about. Life at the ranch, what is the ranch, what's going on here, what is Rajneeshpuram? And with that, I would like to turn to the gentleman on my right here and ask you if you would identify yourself, please.
Swami Krishna Deva, Mayor of the city of Rajneeshpuram.
You are the elected mayor, and it is now a city.
It is a city.
Because the last time that you and I talked, it was not a city, was it?
The last time we talked, it was probably in one of the stages of becoming a city. We had a vote last May. The citizens within the area of the city decided unanimously, 154 to nothing, to incorporate. We had an election August 11th, this last August, and a city council was elected.
And you are the mayor?
That's right.
A KD, as they call you. What's the population here?
Well, as a matter of fact, in the next couple of days, we're going to be having a census done by the Portland people that do that kind of thing. And right now, it's about 550 to 650 people somewhere.
550 to 650,
right.
Somewhere in there. What are these people doing here? How do they spend their time? I'm not asking you why they can't. How do they spend their time? What goes on here?
A lot of hard work goes on here, and a lot of fun doing that hard work.
Hard work at what?
Hard work at making this place green, at reclaiming the land that's been overgrazed, at creating housing, dam projects that we're doing, different kinds of things with agriculture, experiments with agriculture. There's going to be also a broad-based kind of economy that's developed here over the next years. Things like tourism. We have 100 visitors a day that come to visit the ranch right now.
Well, you have an operation, if I might call it here, which requires a lot of skills. And I think we have here lawyers. Do we have any of the lawyers here tonight? Yeah, there are two lawyers one of the lawyers for the Rajneesh. Physicians, any other physicians here tonight? Physician for the Rajneesh, again from your own group. Planner, a planner there with a master's in planning from Harvard. And then I think we probably have to have a lot of people who do what sometimes is called, what we used to call in the Army, grunt work. Isn't that right? Do we have any people here who do that? Let's see it. Sure there are. Come on, you're not all in public relations. There we go, right there. You do. What do you do?
I drive an excavator.
Pardon me?
I operate an excavator.
And where are you from? What's your training?
I'm from New Jersey. My background is in philosophy and religion and martial arts.
Philosophy, religion, martial arts. And out here you're a driver. That's the way, kind of the way they used to do it in the Army, too, we were just talking about. I think we have that here. Don't we have, Dave, is it fair to say, Katie, is it fair to say that we have a lot of people here who are doing pretty common everyday labor, who are college graduates, maybe PhDs even, is that correct?
Nothing that's done here is common. Whatever's done here is part of our meditation, it's part of the love we put into the ranch.
But I mean, for those of us who aren't meditating, would call it ordinary labor, manual labor, let me call it that, is correct?
For those of you that aren't meditating, if that's
Yeah.
how you choose to look at it, then it would become something. But then people that aren't meditating, even though they're doing something, even if they're a doctor, and they're not happy what they're doing as a doctor, that's as mundane as doing anything else. So for us, all jobs, all things we're doing here are completely equal. There is no such thing as a grunt versus someone in PR. There's no evaluation of higher and lower like that.
All jobs at the same level. Who decides who does what? Here, who decides? Right there. Would you identify yourself, please?
My name is Maya Gavidia, and people come into work at the ranch, and first we find out whatever the skills are and wherever the skills are needed, and that's where they work.
Well, what if there's nothing for them in their skills? Say, for example, I'm a lawyer. Say, for example, I come in here and you've got enough lawyers. Then what?
Well, if there are enough lawyers, then work will be found somewhere else, and actually whatever work you do here, it doesn't matter. Because if you're putting your love and joy into the ranch, that's all that's needed.
And if I said to you, well, hey, wait a minute, I'm a lawyer and I don't want to be anything with a lawyer, then maybe I shouldn't be here, is that correct?
Well, that's up to you. That's your choice, whatever you want to do. But generally, people who come here are ready to do whatever there is to do. If there's a need of a lawyer, then they will work as a lawyer. And their preferences are taken into consideration. But if you have a firm and there's a job for 10 people and 20 people apply for that job, obviously you can't give it to 20 people.
So you
And
move
it's
them
in the
around.
same way.
Do you get paid? No. Right there. Do you get paid? I heard everybody, by the way, said no on that. Do you get paid?
I don't get paid in money.
You don't get paid in money. That is going to lead up to one question, but let me ask you this. I'm going to meditate on that next question a bit, but for now, you don't get paid in money. And is that true of everybody here? Is that correct, Sheila?
Yes, it's very correct. Here is question is not of payment. What we are doing is our meditation, and meditation is always out of abundance. It is an overflow of one's energy. And for overflow, you do not require to be paid.
Well,
You're
no,
just
this
grateful that you got this opportunity to put that energy somewhere in a creative work.
But now you do receive, though, room, board, medical care. Is that correct? You do receive
And
many.
there's two.
Let me ask you this.
There's an exception to that. There are two people working for the city. The city's a different thing than was what's happening with the commune. The community development director, Wadud, our planner, and our city attorney are both full-time paid employees of the city.
I see, but the rest are. Now, as to those who are not, would they be eligible for welfare? No, it's a serious question. No, I'm very serious. I'm very serious.
I think there's one main missing thing there. They're not actively looking for a job. They have 3 jobs at once.
I'm going to ask your lawyer that. Is that correct?
Would they be eligible?
Would you stand, please?
Sure. I'm one of the employed ones. So I suppose technically they may be eligible, but nobody's going to go out and apply, and that's the...
Let me ask you another question. Are they going to pay Oregon income taxes on the benefits that they receive from the ranch?
If they're determined to be benefits for tax purposes, certainly.
Wouldn't you, lawyer to lawyer, wouldn't you think that it would be if you've got room, board, and... I don't want to pin you into a corner, but wouldn't that ordinarily be economic benefit that you're taxable on?
It certainly has been held to be in some cases.
Okay, so I think you guys... So that's something to watch here for. What about law enforcement? How do you handle law enforcement? Who wants to address that? We have someone who'd like to talk about that, law enforcement? Right there. Would you identify yourself, please?
Yeah, I'm Prem Jayanand. I'm the police commissioner for Rajneeshpuram. We hired 2...
I take it, just so our audience out there knows, you're serious when you said that you're the
Yeah.
police commissioner. Okay, I wanted to make sure that you went through. Okay. All right, go ahead.
We have actually hired 2 outside deputy sheriffs who are certified in the state of Oregon as police officers, or peace officers, as we like to refer to them down here. We actually haven't had too much work for them to do. In fact, we've had absolutely none. But
Okay.
but right now, their main interest is just to make sure that everyone goes 8 miles an hour in the barnyard. But aside from that, we haven't had any problems down here.
I see also, as I recall reading, that part of their oath is that they have to discharge their duties with good humor. Is that correct?
Correct.
And so far, your crime rate is?
0.
0. Let me ask you another question now. I've been in here today, and this Sheila very kindly gave me a bumper sticker that she has on her car, her Mercedes, I might add for that. And that is that Jesus saves, Moses invests, and the Bhagwan spends. And if there's anything that's apparent here, that is true. I have not seen so much activity anywhere in a long time. There are earth movers here. There's construction going on all over. And indeed, it seems to me that the Bhagwan is spending here to build. What have you built so far? Let's tell our people out there what's been built here that I've seen around me today. Who wants to take that? Right back there.
My name's David Prim. I'm the construction coordinator for the ranch here. We've been doing all sorts of construction that's found in every town from the ground up. We've built sewage systems, we've built water systems, we've built a cafeteria, warehouses. These shops that you see here are to replace maintenance shops that are in the ranch yard. We've built miles of road, every project that's associated with a town in its beginning.
And actually more than a town. I saw out here 2 airplanes that had Air Rajneesh on them, didn't I?
It's true.
Yeah, so you have your own air network, I take it, 2 planes?
That's as a result of our location here on the ranch. We need to have that type of communication with other businesses within the city, within the state of Oregon, and also for emergency evacuation.
Do you have an idea of about how much you've spent so far in construction here?
Just of construction itself, I couldn't say. I understand that probably Savita here would.
Do you want to take a shot at that?
My name is Prem Savita of Rajneesh Services International. I'm a financial consultant. On construction, we've probably spent between 20 to 25 million in the last 15 months.
That's the total up to now. And you said that's just construction, so we're not talking about incidental costs such as food, etc. You're talking about hard construction costs.
Right.
All right, thank you. Let me turn to you. Would you identify yourself, please? Stand up if you would.
Yes, my name is Wadud, and I'm the Director of Community Development for the city.
Wadud, now, there was some talk about what's been built. Let's look ahead. What are you going to build here? What now? What's the vision? What are you going to build here? And I'm talking again now in the physical sense.
Well, in the spring, we'll be building more housing and school and community center and adult education center and just a lot of different kinds of buildings, warehouses, factories. We'll be doing very light manufacturing here, not heavy manufacturing, but probably getting into some light manufacturing, perhaps furniture, some cosmetics. You know, we're looking at different possibilities to go into right now.
And down the road, hotels?
Yes, hotel. We want to have a convention center. And we feel like a convention center, the city is going to become a major tourist center. We didn't anticipate the amount of interest that we've had in the last year, but we have as many as 100 people a day visiting. And we feel like the destination resort possibilities for the city is very great. So we're really looking to expand the economy instead of just centering it on agriculture, which is actually one of the requirements for the state for a city to do, is to diversify its economy. So we're really looking to have a very broad-based economy, and tourism is actually one of those aspects for it. And so the city will take on that form in the sense of various tourist facilities.
Well, I'd like now to kind of throw open a point here. Is one of the things in the past programs we've talked about is what is Rajneeshpuram to be? And it seems to me, I think some of the people are going to feel maybe that there's been a little shifting of gears here. We've had people before who said no, that this is not going to be a farm community. The original publicity I take from the January 11th Oregonian this year says the Rajneesh followers has said a city is required to provide services for the large labor force they will need to intensively farm the land. I think that an impression was created that this is going to be an agricultural community, and now you're talking about a convention center, hotels. Has there been a shifting of gears here? Who'd like to take that? Let's throw that right open here. Right here, let's take right there. First, I want to introduce you. I'm going to just take a second because I'm going to introduce you, if I might here. This is Paul Gearhart from 1,000 Friends of Oregon, and I'm going to introduce you in the terms with which the Rajneesh people here describe 1,000 Friends of Oregon. This is going to be one of your best introductions ever, Paul. Be ready. This is from a city resolution here, City of Rajneeshpuram, Resolution 82-16. Says, these land use laws, referring to Oregon's land use laws, have been corrupted and abused by narrow-minded special interest groups such as the self-appointed watchdog organization which has been barking continuously at the City of Rajneeshpuram for the past year. The intimidation to which local planners have been subjected by the litigation-happy attitudes of a certain watchdog group. They talk about this, and finally, in an editorial in the Rajneesh Times, that being 1,000 Friends of Oregon, has interested itself not only in land use issues, but also in the murky areas of religious prejudice. So that, I think, gives our audience some idea of where you're coming from.
Thank you very much, Jack.
And coming out to the ranch. But Paul, I know that you're very serious in this matter and that it is no laughing matter to you, so I put that to you. Do you feel that there's been some shifting of gears here?
There certainly has been a shift, Jack. Back in last June, the Rajneeshis submitted a farm management plan to apply for 20 mobile homes to Jefferson County. They said they needed 20 full-time farm workers in order to run an intensive farm. Well, then in March of this year, much less than a year later, they submitted another farm management plan, this time to both Wasco and Jefferson County, which says that in fact they need 569 full-time farm workers to run an intensive farm. In November, when they applied for an incorporation of the city of Rajneeshpuram.
That's this November now?
No, that was last November.
Okay.
They said that they needed a city, a small city, in order to run an intensive farm, and that their uses would be farm uses and those necessary to support a farm. It was going to be a rural city, they said. Well, lo and behold, now they want to have a multifaceted urban center, a city with a 500-unit hotel. That's the size of the downtown Portland Hilton. They want industrial park. They want an industrial park which would include high technology industries and other industries, but printing press, printing operation for worldwide distribution of books, a university, and a population that has increased every time that they've made estimates on population. We have concerns about this. We think that this type of activity, before it occurs, ought to be considered in terms of it's consistent with the statewide planning laws. The reason for that is that a city has a license to grow.
Explain it, would you please, Paul, quickly?
Sure. The Oregon land use laws recognize cities as the growth centers of the state. And we think that before a new city is created, that there ought to be consideration to whether there's enough water here to accommodate a population that could go up and up and up and up. We think that there ought to be consideration of who's going to pay for what and whether the taxpayers are going to have burdens. We also are representing a number of neighboring ranchers who are very, very concerned about going out of business because of too many people here. Probably the most likely way that they may be affected is by a decrease in the water table. This is a very, very dry area.
Well, Paul, do you feel then that the people and the officials of the state of Oregon have been deceived along the line here? Is that what I heard you say?
Their story has certainly changed, they being the Rajneeshis.
And you said a minute ago, when there was some laughter, you said that's not funny. Would you identify yourself, please?
Diane McDonald. I'm a longtime resident of this area, and I realize on the media it's probably very amusing that, oh, this is all love, life, and laughter. That's what they proposed when they first came here. We just want to live in peace with our neighbors. My husband's family homesteaded above Antelope 3 generations ago. The people in Antelope are people I care for. And I don't think it's amusing that their town has been taken from them, this government has been taken over. When they came here, they had no need of taking over a government or establishing their own. All they said they wanted to do was farm and live with their neighbors. They have since changed their tune considerably. Now they're in their comprehensive plan for a city, they're projecting 4,000 people within the next 15 years. 4,000 people at this time. Jefferson County in its entirety has a little over 5,000 registered voters. We are talking about and they vote as a block. This is a very large concern to everyone within the county. And I don't think it's fair for L.C.D.C. or any other state agency to feel that, well, let's leave it in Central Oregon. There aren't many people there. It's not going to cause too much dust, and go back to Salem and bury their heads. It is causing a problem. I don't think they're within the L.C.D.C. guidelines. I don't think any organization should be allowed to go out in the middle of exclusive farm use land, squat, call themselves a city, and form a government.
Right there.
I'm Jim Ross, Jack, the Director of the Department of Land Conservation and Development, or L.C.D.C. There are several unanswered questions, I think, and we ought to cover those very briefly. Number one, The act of incorporation of the city of Rajneesh was appealed to the Land Use Board of Appeals by 1,000 Friends as a violation of the statewide planning goals. The Land Use Board of Appeals ruled that the statewide planning goals did not apply to the incorporation. That's a very debatable question.
Why not?
I think Paul Gearhart perhaps can respond better to that issue. They indicated that the statute simply did not cover incorporations.
Okay. Good enough. Go ahead.
That has been appealed to the Court of Appeals. Oral arguments have been held, but they have not handed down their decision. It will be interesting to see when they do hand down their decision if they overturn the Land Use Board of Appeals and therefore indicate that the statewide planning goals do apply to the incorporation. It will have to go back through LUBA and to L.C.D.C. for action. So that question is yet unanswered. The second issue is the comprehensive plan for Rajneeshpuram. That was submitted to L.C.D.C. last week by the mayor. We will be commencing our review very shortly, and in March we'll hold the hearing before L.C.D.C. to determine whether or not the comprehensive plan for the city of Rajneeshpuram meets the statewide planning goals.
Right there. Would you identify yourself? Second row, please.
My name is Rosemary McGreer. I'm a neighboring rancher. We border this Rajneeshpuram.
Rosemary, you were on our program in the spring. At that time, you made some remarks. You said these people are saying they're coming here to farm, and they aren't going to farm. They're building a city. Do you feel that the subsequent events have somewhat vindicated you on that?
Oh, I definitely do. I don't think there's any question. I was just reading an article out of the Oregonian dated just a few days ago, and Krishnadeva said that where they were going to have their economic base was from education and from tourism, and they mentioned other things that they'd set aside that they were going to do at various places here, but there was not one mention of agriculture in it at all.
Thank you. All right, now back to you. You've heard the accusation that you shifted gears, that you changed the game plan, so to speak, even in stronger terms, that you've deceived the state of Oregon.
That's
Sheila,
a
what's your
lie.
response to that?
I still stand by and say you don't live alone with bread and farming. You need to clothe, you need to have a house to live in, you need roads, you need water to farm too. And everything that has been done here has been done in conjunction with farming. Thanks to people like Diane McDonald and Rosemary McGreer that we have attracted tourism. It wasn't my intention. They have created enough publicity for me that I have a problem. Isabel comes every day. Sheila, what am I going to do with this tourist? You need a place for tourists, and if tourists are going to come, I want to take care of them, welcome them, love them, let them see what we are all about. Do you want to know what we are all about?
So your response then is that this wasn't planned from the very beginning, that you actually intended to start a farming community, but that this unexpected influx of tourism has brought you to that kind of development.
Absolutely. It's like you telling me that the river, or these people are telling me that river is flowing, river is just flowing, and it should be flowing, and suddenly floods come in. What do? Do you protect the flood? Do you take care of the floods? You do. Naturally, you take care of the floods, and you keep yourself safe and continue your farming too. And at times, floods become the priority too, because you want to save yourself. You're up to here. You want to save yourself.
Save yourself right there.
I'm Bud Beamer from Madras, Oregon. I'm a concerned citizen from that area. I'm a family physician there. I think to blame Diane and Rosemary for your tourism problem is rather ludicrous. I think tourism and the tour of Rajneeshpuram, although very attractive, is somewhat of a ploy to establish credibility. I think the people that come out here are impressed. I've talked to many that just don't see what the problem is. These people are in harmony with nature. They feel that these people are credible. And what happens then is their critical thinking becomes silenced. They fail to continue to judge in a critical sense what really is at stake here. We were welcomed in the name of love by Sheila earlier, and I don't think that's the issue. I think there's some legitimate concerns. I think they are farming out here. I think they are farming people, essentially, rather than crops. I think to say that, life is a joke, that bills are a joke, read in the paper where they're failing to respond to some of their bills for certain purposes. I
Have
think
you-
that
have
the
you done
Jews...
the
Well, he's got the
research?
floor, please.
Have
He's
you
got the
done the
floor.
research before you talk about
I
bills?
just read what's in the paper.
Yeah, well,
All right.
papers, you know, talk just like you do.
Okay.
Go ahead.
The Jews are a joke. You know, life in general is a joke.
Got a few Jews here.
I see, you know, you see the picture in the paper of the mayor here with his 3,500 jokes for public appearance, you know, leading the town meeting that they have, and talking about the joke of a bill, of the legalese of a contract. You know, on the next page, I've got we've got the war memorial to Vietnam there, the people leaning against it with tears over the people that have died. You know, I think for them to have died so that life can be a joke, you know, is a human tragedy, really. I don't think that's what it's all about. And I don't mean to lose my objectivity here. I think that there's some basic issues at stake. When they voted an election for an economic or for a political bloc like they did, and elect, say, a commissioner in Wasco County who seems to have been in the same camp, more or less, as far as decision-making, and realize that they can vote 350-some votes for him, and he will assume this position of responsibility, somewhat indebted to the people, and he is in a position to administer some of the land use laws that are developed. You know, I think he loses his objectivity in that sense. I think that the state needs to decide, you know, what the land use laws are, to adhere to them, to not be intimidated by a religious group, to not let them lose their objectivity toward what really needs to be done if it's going to be preserved. The problem is, if you get judges on county courts that are making the decisions on land use laws, you know, there's going to be unlimited expansion. And I think Governor McCall, when he developed the land use laws, tried to preserve the pristine wildernesses.
Mr. Beamer, I'm going to interrupt you here a second because I want to get to a point that you've raised, which is a serious point. You brought up the point, and let's take it a second, of the voting bloc. And I have here, we got from official sources, the election results comes to us as voted on by the Rajneesh. For U.S. Representative, it was Bob Smith, 335 to 1. For Governor, it was Kulingoski, 333, Atiyeh, none. Labor Commissioner, Roberts, 333, Lachlan, 1. You go down the ballot measures, it's the same all the way. Ballot measure 1, 335 yes, 0 no. Ballot measure 3, the property tax limitation was 2 yes, 334 no. 6, which was to abolish L.C.D.C, 329 yes, 5 no. And then for the one that's of much interest here, and that is the contest you referred to, Mr. Beamer, as for the county judge, which I should explain for a lot of our viewers, particularly in Portland, that county judge here is not a judge with a robe and a gavel. He is equivalent to a county commissioner. He's an administrative official, government official. For county judge, as I say, commissioner, it was Rick Cantrell, 336, Maxine Cobb, 0. And we look at that Cantrell figure, and Rick Cantrell won by 112 votes. So the question I have for you, Mr. Mayor, here is who decides how everybody votes?
Individuals decide how they vote. Individuals, each and every one of them, go into that ballot box, and we have observers here every election so far we've ever had. They could vouch for that. Like any other organization and group of people, whether it be, as people mentioned here before, I happen to have been raised Jewish. I can remember times when we would go to the synagogue, we would go to meetings. I know it happens in the Christian religions, it happens in unions. Groups of people get together, they decide what would be best for us. They look at the situations, what programs people support, and they look logically, reasonably, what is going to be best for our community.
You're saying that somebody does make a recommendation to the people. Is that what you're saying?
We have voters' meetings, and the issues are discussed, and the issues are seen as one way or another for our community, the people, the programs they support, and those kind of recommendations.
One thing here I wonder, though, by sending out these kind of numbers, 335 to nothing, if you're looking down the road to a population of 2,000 to 4,000, you're kind of sending a message to the politicians around here, aren't you? I mean, you're going to be coming to the point where even the U.S. congressman had better come up to Rajneeshpuram to find out what's going on. Is that correct?
I would hope that congressmen, that county judges, that the governor himself, that all people that are in public office can come and meet the people they represent, regardless of whether they have a feeling that that's going to affect their neck in the next election. I don't think that's really the issue. I think that's an issue that is only an issue in a negative sense. The positive sense is those people should be visiting and concerned about the constituency they have. In our situation, for instance, with Governor Atiyeh, he's made comments that he wants us to leave the state, and yet at the same time, in the months since last, I believe it was May when that statement was made, he still hasn't come to visit us, regardless of whether there's 5 votes or 350 votes.
One I'd like to ask about that line, you say that you have meetings where you get together to make suggestions to people. You passed a city ordinance here on October 13th. That would be approximately 3 weeks before the election, in which the city council of Rajneeshpuram officially went on record as opposing Measure 6. 3 weeks later, you went on record opposing it. 3 weeks later, the count on ballot Measure 6 was 329 yes, 5 no. What
you know how many city council persons we have?
Yeah. But
you know how many?
Yeah?
5.
Are you trying to tell me that all these people individually made up their mind to go against the city council on that one and not on the others?
What I'm saying is that people in that particular situation were so fed up. These people here are people that would be doing what they're doing as far as the environment. They're environmentalists. They'd be doing it with or without L.C.D.C. We've had such abuse from Thousand Friends of Oregon as far as we're concerned, not only in the sense of land use, but as was said before, and I think was appropriately said in the Rajneesh Times, we feel that it has gone beyond land use and is somewhat of an obsession, maybe a religious obsession.
Then why didn't the city council recommend a yes vote on ballot Measure 6?
It may not make logical sense, but the only way we feel, at least from what I heard from the voters who beat it on my head when I signed that ordinance that day, that resolution, the only way they felt that they could express that is by voting against the land use group as it was coming up for the vote.
So actually
it was unfortunate, but that's the way it happened.
You're saying that it went against your council 329 to nothing.
That's
and
what
that's
happened.
their perfect right to do so. Every citizen has a right to vote for what they choose. It's a sacred privilege, and it is a private privilege.
Any more comment on the voting here? Right there. Would you identify yourself, please?
Yes, I'm Dorothy Moorfield. I'm just a housewife from Madras. And I think that if on this L.C.D.C. thing, the people have put the L.C.D.C. in and the governor. And I feel that every rancher and every farmer or anybody that has property that has been turned down by L.C.D.C. wanting an extra building on their property for farm help and haven't been able to get it, I think they should everyone band together and take action against the state of Oregon and against L.C.D.C.
All right, thank you. It really isn't a show on L.C.D.C., although we have the director here. What we're more concerned with is for the moment, the Rajneesh vote. Is anyone else here concerned about the block here, the possibility of the block? Right there, would you identify yourself, please?
Yes, Henry Kane. I'm very concerned by the combination of church and state, and our Constitution says there shall be separation of church and state. I'm very concerned that we have a purported city without one dedicated street so that the public can make use of it without invitation. I'm concerned that a religious organization has set up a purported city that has hired law enforcement authorities, and it has the power of the state behind it. There is no abuse now, to my knowledge, but it can be abused. And when you see these disproportionate votes in a county, and by the way, I'm formerly from Wasco County, and you see how they can, in effect, by bringing in people by the thousands, and we can register to the last minute, they can take over a county very easily, and I expect that may happen by just putting in their people, whether it be a member or somebody who will go along. I think this is a reason for concern, and I hope you find time to do an aerial shot of this so-called city, and you will see most of it is straight up and down. It's a 100-mile square land. It sure is not a city, and the area that is devoted or can be devoted to agriculture is very, very limited, and I'm seeing a lot of soil erosion as I drive by.
I'm going to bring up the point you started with. Would you identify yourself, please?
Yes, my name is Rex Armstrong. I'm an attorney from Portland.
And you're here basically representing?
Well, representing may not quite be accurate. I'm an attorney who works with the American Civil Liberties Union. I'm on the board of directors.
Rex, what is your view? And just to, again, for our viewers, I might say, is of course the simple thing is the Constitution, we provide for a separation of church and state. Do you see any violation of that here now, one? And two, do you see any potential for violation?
I don't see a violation through the incorporation of the city. A city if there are people living in an area that need services, whether it's fire protection, police protection, or whatever, governmental structure to provide that service does not seem to violate the requirement that church and state be separated, whether under the federal constitution or the state constitution. The concern maybe later can become one whether the activities of the government promote religious belief or religious values and discriminate on the basis of religious beliefs. I have no idea whether that will happen.
You're just saying it's something to watch.
It's something to watch. It's something that concerns the ACLU in very traditional settings throughout the state. So you'll be watching? Well, I don't know if you'd say we'll be watching. We're always contacted by people, whether they're concerned about Gideon Bible societies putting Bibles in schools, whether it's nativity scenes on county courthouse property. We continue to get contacts, and we may receive some people here concerned about that.
Let me ask you a similar question now that this raises. I think, as I say, the lawyers here, there's even no charge at present. There's a violation of church and state. But is there a problem here? Are you using tax-exempt contributions to finance this construction here, like the hotels, et cetera? Will you be using tax-exempt contributions for that?
I'd come to that point, but talk about discrimination. I would like Devam to speak about it, what happened in Madras. Devam, can you talk about
All right, let's go ahead.
Because there are two Madras people here representing Madras and the population there. So please speak about the discrimination, because we also have a...
Okay, that's on the point. We were talking about church and state. That's fine. That's on the point.
My name is Swami Anand Devam, and I'm a physician here at Rajneeshpuram. I also have a practice in psychiatry with my partner in Madras. And in that practice in Madras, we've had occasion to experience what's going on there. And as Bud was saying about his concerns about people being objective, Bud, the problem is that you talk about being objective, but in terms of the actual...
Now, Bud, again, excuse me, is Dr. Beamer, who
Dr.
spoke
Beamer.
earlier. Yes, go ahead. And you're from Madras?
Yes, sir.
Correct. Okay, go ahead.
And, we've had cases where patients who've gone to my partner, Dr. Shunyo, who's a boarded internal medicine specialist in town, and when you've talked to them asking why they go there, and it's like, your position is not an objective position, and the position of many of the people here, even when they talk about being objective, is not objective and hasn't been. And that in town we've experienced situations where work that we would have gotten from our qualifications has been denied us fundamentally because of our religious belief. That if it was an issue of were we black or were we Jewish, it would be very obvious and straightforward, but because we're Rajneeshi, it's suddenly okay to be discriminatory.
Somebody from Madras want to respond to that? Somebody from Madras want to take that on?
I think we have the freedom.
Right, Ed, go ahead.
Diane McDonald, I think we have the freedom to choose what doctor we want to go to, and just because there's a new kid on the block who's going to get his feelings hurt if we don't go to him, I don't think it's necessary for us.
She's got the floor. No, she's got the floor. Please, you wait a minute, please.
For
just a
us
second.
to go to them. Many people don't go to physicians in town. Some go out of town. The physicians who are there have an established clinic. I see no reason why perhaps we are doctored out. We have enough physicians in our area. And to say, well, gee, you're not coming to my house, so you must not like me, and I'm mad about that. You're prejudiced. Maybe we just don't want that doctor.
That's absolutely
right back to you.
What I'm saying. What I'm saying is people who choose to go to our group and that they're being harassed in town because of that. That's exactly the point, that you have the right to go to the physician of your choice.
In terms he's got the floor now, please. Let's take it one at a time. Go ahead,
In terms of doctors per population, Jefferson County is about 4th lowest in the state. They need physicians. Until we got there, until Shunyo got there wasn't, an internal medicine specialist in town, and he provides a valuable service in town. And that's just the point, that people have the right to choose their physician without harassment.
I'm going to bring up a point here.
Right to choose their own voters too, the same way, and people have right to choose where they're going to live to.
All right,
and this is what you need to learn, this is what you need to learn, this is what Mrs. McGreer needs to learn too, that where people want to live, they can live and they are free to live. This is America. And we want you to remember that this is America, and America offers freedom of life, freedom of religion, freedom of nation, and as long as within you are the limits of law, and we are law-bounded people. We have not broken a single law.
Now let me ask you about it. Let me ask you about an agreement, because when we had our show in spring, there was talk about negotiation between the city of Antelope. At that time, you had people in the city of Antelope, and of course we know there was a red-hot controversy. The people of Antelope felt they're being taken over, or the word somebody used said we're being held hostage for them to have their city. At that point, you indicated that if we get our city, we'll be going out of Antelope. In fact, we have a clip on that I'd like to run, and I hope you can see it. Could we have that clip, please, from the spring show right there? If you can do what you want to do in the ranch, are you going to sell out in Antelope? Will you give these? Will you move out of Antelope, Sheila?
First, we have to have Rajneeshpuram.
I mean, if you get it, will you?
Well, we have never intended to come to Antelope. We don't have any intention of future either. It is just an interim problem, and we are trying to survive. And one of the things I would like to say to everyone, that you cannot tell a flowing river to stop. It gets muddy, it gets polluted to tell a flowing river to stop. And we are flowing people. We flow very well, very nicely, and there's nothing. If they treat us like human beings, if they treat us like people, there's no problem.
A simple answer to your question would be yes.
The person who just said that, by the way, was your representative, Bob Davis, who said if we have our city in Rajneeshpuram, yes, we'll move out of Antelope. Then on the election this last week, the Rajneeshi elected a full city council and mayor in the city of Antelope.
Okay.
How do you explain
that? I go back to Linda McDonald or Diana McDonald, whoever she is, that she said she has the right to choose who her physician is. Same way, residents of Antelope have right to choose who their elected bodies are going to be. Now, if you ask me, I'm not going to move to Antelope. I live in Jesus Grove. I love Jesus Grove.
And the people in Antelope love Antelope too. And we have got a copy here of what we understand is some of the papers that were used in the settlement agreement between the two. And there's a recital here that the followers of Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh have indicated a willingness to have the remaining issues amicably resolved and concluded. And on the show, you talked about love and respect. And I'd like to ask you if you'd identify yourself.
Keith Mobley, former Antelope City attorney. And
Keith, do you feel that the action of the Rajneeshi in coming in and electing and voting out in effect the former city council of Antelope was a violation of that agreement you reached?
Not strictly. The agreement was done to end the litigation that existed between the city of Antelope and the people of Rajneesh. And it also had what had been my personal goal for some time, a provision that would prevent the heavy taxation that was anticipated in the city of Antelope if the kinds of improvements that are made here on the ranch were made in the city of Antelope as public improvements and subject to the governmental powers of taxation.
Now, you used a word which I'm going to underline. You said, when I asked you if it had been violated, you said not strictly.
Well, because the agreement does, perhaps directly, perhaps impliedly, anticipate that there could be a continued Rajneeshi presence in Antelope.
But let me ask you, do you feel, because it was your choice of words, you said not strictly, do you feel maybe that there was a violation of the spirit of the agreement in this election?
It remains to be seen, I think, as to whether or not, if all is accomplished here at Rajneeshpuram, then will the Rajneesh presence in...
Now, was part of the agreement that the facilities which the ranch people want to build in Antelope, they want to provide in Antelope, would be paid for by them? Was that part of the agreement?
Yes, it is.
Now, wouldn't it be possible for the mayor and the new council from Rajneesh to come in and discharge that agreement that was made by the city? The city of Antelope enters into an agreement. The new government can come in and discharge and release the former agreement, can't they? Isn't that correct?
The agreement is between the three Rajneesh corporations and the city of Antelope.
But the city of Antelope could just come in and say, we herewith discharge it. Couldn't they do that?
I don't believe so.
You don't think so?
That there would be some rights enforceable.
Do you think that one government is bound by the contracts of a former government?
In this sense, I think that we will have some third-party beneficiaries talking about it.
All right. All right, let's go back to the idea.
That already, by old-time citizens...
Sheila, would you please just one more time re-identify yourself?
Yes. My name is Manan Sheila, and I represent Rajneesh community. President of Rajneesh Foundation International, Secretary to Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh. City of Antelope, old-time residents have already violated that agreement, and we have drawn legal people's attention to it, which people would like to ignore it. Violation was made by Francis Dixon, who should not have uttered these words to the journalist, because agreement was written in good faith. And Francis Dixon said, well, if we didn't have to pay $19,000 bill, we would not have ever entered into this agreement. Not only that, we don't want peace with them. We don't want them here. who are they to say we don't want them here? We have bought each and every house legally, which was on sale, and through illegal real estate people. So if you're telling me what in Southern they did when the American blacks were given rights to vote, Southern states tried to disincorporate their cities. This is what Antelope tried to do.
Does anybody from Antelope want to respond to that? Anybody from Antelope who wants to? The old, you've got the mayor now. No fair. Any of the old? Do we have any of the old residents of Antelope here tonight? Okay, all right. Do you want to take that on for them, Keith? Okay, Keith, just a second. Let's right here.
We would agree that the purchase of the properties in Antelope by the Rajneeshs were entirely appropriate, proper. They were done in the normal style, earnest money receipts and contracts and so on. But in that process, I think the people of Antelope were given some assurances that the Rajneeshi presence was probably temporary, that there would be, once all was established here at Rajneeshpuram, an exodus from the city of Antelope. And whether or not that will really occur, I think, remains to be seen. But if the presence does remain, my primary concern is that the spirit of that agreement, which was certainly executed in good faith after some long and hard negotiation, you feel that it is broken then and is of no further effect?
We have witnesses. San Francisco Examiner was told by Frances Dixon, and she broke the agreement. And still, I haven't done anything because I still hold good faith.
Didn't you just tell us not to pay any attention to the press? I mean, didn't you just tell us you can't believe what you read in the press? Is it just that
No, he came personally and told us. Right after Frances Dixon was interviewed, he came and said this to me directly on my face.
Right there.
But also, Sheila,
Would you identify yourself, please?
I'm Barbara Hill, a native Oregonian and have lived in Jefferson County for 27 years. Sheila, you said from the onstart, all we want to do is ranch in peace and harmony among our neighbors.
This is exactly how we are living. If you really want to know how we are living, what Rajneeshpuram is all about it, here we are. Yes, Baba,
Right there. Go ahead. Is this a short song? Can we have? Okay, let's hold it down. Come on, let's hold it down. Let's hold it down. Come on. It's not a musical. It's not a musical. Come on, go right ahead there, please.
Yes, I'm Dorothy Moorfield again from Madras, and they say they have their city, and I'd like to know why, if someone wants to come here, they are not free to walk through your city. They have to take the tour, and they see only what you want them to see. And I would also like to know, since you've bought all the property that's up for sale in Antelope, if the people in Antelope can come in, and if you're going to put some lots up for sale also.
Let me turn to public relations for that. Would you identify yourself, please? Okay.
My name is Isabel.
Do you want to respond to that?
As far as I know, the tour that we offer for the people shows everything that we have. We don't show the houses inside because the people require the privacy. We show all the work that is going on. Now, the city has not yet made any public streets or any public places. As we develop, as the city develops, the city will make public parks, public streets, public places that will be available to people to just come in. But you don't allow just people to walk into your house, open the doors, open the closets all day long.
But you come into Madras, you walk down any street you want to.
That is
you can go into any public building you want to.
Lady, we incorporated...
You can even buy property.
Lady, we incorporated 2 months ago or so. You can go to the post office, as she says. That's a public building already.
Are you going to have property up for sale?
We will have, as we develop property, it will be available to the people. But we first have to develop.
But will it be for sale?
Well, that I guess the city attorney could answer better than myself.
Because, you know, in any incorporated city, anywhere in the United States, you can buy property, and other businesses can come in.
One thing I want to remind you all, we're mixing two things here. One thing is the ranch. Rosemary was saying that Krishna Deva is not talking about us doing agriculture. Krishna Deva is talking about the development of the city. The city is 2.1 square miles. That is 2%, 3% of the whole area of the ranch. The ranch is doing farming. The city is looking for other viable alternatives, economic alternatives.
One economic alternative, I'd like to throw this out now.
City or ranch?
Isabel, let's get some questions here. We'd like to throw it open for some questions, as we said at the beginning, maybe from some of the people looking outside. One question I want to throw is, how many people did you have at the festival this year? This July, you had a festival to which you invited people from all over the world. How many people did you have for the festival? Who's in charge of the festival here? Who can pick that up? The festival?
7,000 people.
7,000 people. And what do you, they came out here during July.
Yes.
And what do you anticipate? You're going to have another festival this year?
Yes.
And what are you looking for in the way of visitors there?
Lots.
Lots. Now, I've got to tell you, there are some people here, and maybe some here have some questions about that on farmland. This was raised at our show in the spring. I can't remember if it was you specifically. I believe, didn't you make a comment on that? Do you want to pick that up again? Is this an instance where you feel that your fears have been confirmed?
I think that it's not, doesn't have anything to do with farm use, if that's what you mean. I want to make another point while we're talking here. Everybody keeps talking about Thousand Friends' battle against this group. I want to make it very clear that it's not just Thousand Friends, that the people, the surrounding farmers, I'm one of those people. I come from a 5-generation ranch that is just adjacent to here. I hear their machinery and their planes all the time. So we are actively involved with all this. We come from an area that has 8 to 10 inches of rainfall a year, and they're talking about these many, many thousands of people. This last year we had was the greatest amount of water we've had since the 56 years they've kept records in Antelope. There's not normally this much water. In fact, just a few years ago, the river was dry across. I am very, very concerned about all this, and I want everybody to know that if anybody gets hurt around here by this ranch, it's going to be the neighboring ranchers, and I'm one. And it isn't Thousand Friends that's going to hurt as much as us. We are deeply concerned about this, and so it's the battle for all of us, and not just Thousand Friends.
You should be grateful we came and brought the water for you.
Just a second, please, right there.
Yeah, one of the things that was discussed...
And you're again?
Paul Gerhardt, Land Use Planner with 1,000 Friends of Oregon. One of the things that was discussed earlier is everyone welcome to come in open arms? Speaking of water, at least one person wasn't welcome to set foot on any of the Rajneesh's property here in the ranch, and that was an independent water consultant, a hydrogeologist, which the ranchers hired in order to determine whether there's enough water here. The consultant for water that the Rajneeshis hired issued a report which said there may not be enough water here to accommodate a city. We don't know yet. Let's move slow, he said to the Rajneeshis. We wanted to, and the ranchers really wanted to have an independent hydrologist to see if there is enough water here. And that firm, which is a very respectable and prestigious firm in this region, was not allowed to step foot within the ranch.
I think you have the city attorney who wants to respond to that.
Yes,
right
I'm Sangeet, the city attorney for Rajneeshpuram. That's simply not true. He was allowed to go on the county road, which is a place anyone can go. It's not true there are no roads that are available to the public. The county road is available. He did come, he did review it, the land from the road. The thing is that they wanted to bring in an expert in a situation that is unprecedented for an outside group to bring in their own experts. And they went to the court to try to get the court to allow them, and the court agreed with the city that it was unprecedented for them to make this kind of request. So they make it sound as though they were very reasonable in their request, but so far no one has upheld them in their reasonableness.
Okay, any questions from people on the outside? I'd like to ask questions from the people from the ranch. We've got a few minutes left. Right there, please.
I would like to ask our fellow from the land use, is the ranch in full compliance with land use laws right now? I mean with their buildings, their reservoirs, their roads, their 100 A-framed houses and 100 more planned, and that's in complete compliance with our land use.
You're asking that of Jim Ross,
yes,
the L.C.D.C.
please.
Executive Director?
There are basically 3 issues there. Number 1, the question of incorporation of the city itself. As I indicated a few moments ago,
that's in litigation.
That is in litigation. There's a legal shadow that is over the whole question of whether or not the Rajneesh people can have a city here. The Court of Appeals will rule on that hopefully in the next several months. It may end up back in LCDC's lap.
And that's a real yes or no, too, isn't it, Jim? Yes, they can, or no, they can't.
That's correct. And I don't know if anybody has really thought about what is going to happen if the answer comes back no, they cannot have a city here. It is a violation of the statewide planning goals. That's an issue that is going to throw everything into a cocked hat. The second and third issues, well, the third issue actually, is the question of the remaining portion of the farm outside of the incorporated city limits, and that what is going on here is consistent with the Wasco County Comprehensive Plan.
Now, how about a question again from outside? Okay, go ahead. Take it, Mayor.
And correct me if I'm wrong. The legal issue that's now at the Court of Appeals has nothing to do with whether there is compliance or not with the goals as far as the city. The issue before the court right now is whether or not the goals even apply to the city. That's the issue before the court. So then they would have to look again once that's decided, and they'd have to see does the city or not.
Everybody agrees on that. Right there, you, sir.
I'm a farmer. I make my livelihood farming. You tell me how changing 2,100 acres of exclusive farm use land into a city like that is not a land use decision. You tell me, and tell my dad and all my other farmer neighbors and everyone else, you tell me how that is possible, for God's sake.
All right, I will tell you, and I'll also tell the lady from Madras. Get the law changed. Apparently, the question of incorporation of a city does not have to be measured against the statewide planning goals. That is the issue the Court of Appeals must rule on. Personally, I think, obviously, incorporation ought to be measured against the statewide planning goals. It's the law that you have a problem with, not L.C.D.C.
Well, right now, I'm sorry. Right now, it's not the law or L.C.D.C. we have a problem with, it's the clock. And I think here we are again, as I said, inside the ranch at Rajneeshpuram for what we expect to be the third and final of our trilogy on the Rajneesh in Oregon. I think from the reaction behind me, you may think they feel we're coming back. If there's anything about this place, that is, it is here. It looks like it's going to be here for a while anyway. Thank you for tuning in, and good night.